something kind of wild. A pricing model called Pay What You Want.
Pay what you want.
Yeah, you heard right. Basically, it means creators let their customers decide the price.
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but my first thought was, isn't anyone, like, freaking out about getting ripped off?
Yeah, it seems a little crazy at first.
But there's actually a surprising amount of strategy at play here.
A lot more than meets the eye.
So today we're going to unpack why some creators are all in on this and how it actually works, in the real world.
And what's interesting is that it's not just about, like, blind trust or hoping people will be generous, although that is part of it.
Right.
There's a fascinating psychological component because research has actually shown that people tend to value things more when they can decide the price, even if they end up paying more than they initially thought.
Really?
Yeah. It's like this sense of control of having a voice actually boosts the value they perceive.
That's really interesting. It's like when you haggle for something at a flea market or something, and even though you got it for a steal, it's like you cherish it even more because you were part of deciding what it was worth.
Precisely. And for creators, this can be huge. A potential gold mine, really. You see, even though it seems counterintuitive, pay what you want can actually bring in more revenue overall, even if some folks pay less than the usual price.
I don't quite follow.
The key is the volume of sales.
Yeah.
When there's no set price, you open the door to a much wider audience. And a lot of these new customers are more than happy to pay a fair price, or even more, for what you're offering. It's less about second-guessing what people will pay and more about giving them the chance to show you.
So it's kind of like built-in market research.
Absolutely.
You're crowdsourcing your pricing strategy directly from how your customers behave, which is, that's pretty smart.
It is.
And we found some other cool perks for creators too, right? Like something about boosting engagement and basically turning customers into like walking advertisements.
You're talking about turning customers into brand ambassadors?
Yeah.
And it's a powerful side effect of this model. When customers feel valued and respected enough to set their own price, they become more invested in your success. They're not just buying a product, they're part of something bigger. A relationship built on trust and shared values. And, people love recommending stuff they believe in.
Oh, totally. So instead of spending a ton on marketing, you're building a network of like super fans who do it for you.
Exactly.
I can definitely see the value in that, especially for creators who are just starting out, or for independent creators.
Yeah, especially for them.
But I do have to wonder, what about from the customer side of things? It still sounds a little too good to be true. Like, where's the catch?
Well, it's natural to question it, of course, but imagine if you could experience creative work that normally would have been out of your budget.
I see where you're going with this.
Pay what you want can make things way more accessible, especially for people with lower incomes, younger audiences, or just anyone hesitant to try new things because of the cost.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Price becomes an open invitation instead of a barrier.
You're not excluded just because you can't afford a certain price point.
Exactly.
Makes you wonder what you've missed out on in the past because of that, right?
It does. And beyond just the affordability, there's also a certain thrill, a sense of discovery, because you can take a chance without the usual financial risk. It opens up a world of new possibilities. And when you do connect with something that truly resonates with you, you're much more likely to support that creator, even if it means paying a little extra.
You feel like you're part of something bigger?
Yes. A community of people who value creativity and authenticity just like you.
That's awesome.
It is a wonderful feeling. And that feeling of belonging to a community, it can be a powerful motivator.
Right, like you're saying, I support what you're doing, not just with words, but with your wallet.
Yeah, exactly. It's putting your money where your mouth is, but in a more thoughtful way, I guess.
So how does this pay what you want thing actually work? Is it really as simple as just saying, pay whatever you feel like?
It's simpler than you might think.
Okay.
Basically, the creator sets a minimum price, a sort of safety net.
I see. To cover their expenses. Yeah.
Exactly. Or sometimes it represents the absolute least they think their work is worth.
So it's not about giving everything away for free, but more about setting a baseline and letting the customer decide how much more they want to chip in.
Exactly. It shifts the power dynamic. Instead of a one-sided transaction, it's more of a collaborative thing.
I like that. But doesn't that also mean some people could totally take advantage of the system?
It's a risk, for sure.
What's stopping someone from paying the bare minimum even if they love the product?
Well, you're right. There's always that chance. But with pay what you want, the focus isn't on squeezing every penny out of every single person.
Okay.
It's about building a sustainable model that attracts the right customers, the ones who get it, who appreciate what you're doing.
I see. So how do you avoid, like, constant undercutting?
There are ways to minimize that risk. One strategy is offering different tiers of rewards.
What do you mean?
So, for example, if someone pays above a certain amount, they might get bonus content or early access to new stuff or even special discounts.
Oh, that's a cool idea. It keeps the whole pay what you want spirit alive while acknowledging that, realistically, not everyone can afford to pay a lot.
Exactly. Plus, it adds a little something extra, like a fun incentive.
Yeah, like unlocking rewards in a game or something.
Exactly. And let's not underestimate the power of just being upfront with people. When creators are open about their costs, their process, what they need to keep going, it builds trust.
Sure, it's like you're inviting people behind the scenes, letting them see how the sausage is made.
And when people feel included, they're often much more understanding and willing to contribute.
So we've talked a lot about the theory behind pay what you want, but I'm really curious to see how it works in the real world. Got any examples?
Absolutely. There are some amazing success stories. One that comes to mind is Bandcamp, the online platform for musicians.
Funny you mentioned Bandcamp because just last week I was browsing and stumbled across this amazing indie band from like Iceland. Yeah, and I was so blown away that I ended up paying double the asking price for their album just because I wanted to show some love.
I get it.
It felt good to support them. So tell me, how does Bandcamp use this model?
Well, Bandcamp is a great example of pay what you want done right. They let artists set their own minimum prices for their music, and then listeners decide if they want to pay that or more.
Hmm.
It's like a digital tip jar, but for music.
I like that.
And the best part is, it works. Bandcamp has been a champion for fair pay for artists, and their model has helped countless musicians reach new fans and fund their creative work, all without having to compromise.
That's really cool. It's like they're leveling the playing field, giving independent artists a chance in an industry that can be tough to break into.
Absolutely.
And speaking of shaking things up, we came across another great example, this time in the world of video games, Humble Bundle. As someone who may or may not be slightly obsessed with indie games,
Oh, yeah.
this one really caught my eye.
It's a fascinating case. Back in 2010, they launched their first bundle, offering a bunch of awesome games for whatever price people felt like paying. And the response was incredible, way more than they expected. It showed there was a real desire for a different kind of buying experience, one where people felt in control.
And they've always had that charity element too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, from the very beginning. With Humble Bundle, you can choose how much of your money goes to the developers, how much goes to charity, and how much goes to Humble Bundle themselves.
So win-win-win?
Exactly. You get awesome games, support indie developers, and donate to a good cause all at the same time.
Doesn't get much better than that.
It's a good deal.
But we haven't even gotten to our last example, which might be the most surprising of all.
Well,
We've talked about indie artists and game developers, but this one's a band that could sell out stadiums worldwide.
Radiohead.
Wow. Yeah, back in 2007, at the height of their fame, they decided to release their album In Rainbows online using a pay-what-you-want model.
Really?
Fans could download the album and pay what they thought it was worth, even if that meant $0.
I never knew that. So did it work? Did anyone actually pay when they could have gotten it for free?
You'd be surprised.
Okay.
Turns out, people are more decent than we sometimes give them credit for. The average price paid for in Rainbows was actually higher than typical digital albums back then. They made a huge splash, proved that even big-time artists can find success by trying new things.
It makes you wonder if we underestimate people's willingness to pay for what they value.
Totally. But we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the challenges of pay what you want, right? It's not all sunshine and roses.
Of course not. It's not a magical solution, and it's not right for everyone. One big risk is the potential for underpayment.
Right, you're counting on people, to be fair.
And while many are, there will always be those who take advantage. So for anyone out there thinking about giving this model a shot, what are some key things to keep in mind?
Give us a rundown.
Well, first off, honesty is key. Be upfront with your audience about your costs, your process, what you need to keep the lights on. Don't be afraid to set a suggested price, a sort of nudge in the right direction, without being pushy.
Okay.
And remember, pay what you want is all about trust and community. Engage with your people, listen to their feedback, be open to adjusting your approach along the way.
It's like any relationship, communication is key.
Absolutely.
Huh.
Think of it as an ongoing experiment. You might be amazed by what you discover, not just about your audience, but about the value of your own work.
Well, this has been a wild ride. We started off a little skeptical, but I think we've both come around to seeing the potential of pay what you want. It really shows the power of trust, transparency, and the desire to support things we believe in.
It's refreshing, isn't it?
Totally. So we turn it over to you, dear listeners. Have you ever encountered pay what you want? What do you think about this whole idea? Head over to our social media and let's chat about it. Until next time, stay curious.